My name is Jason Phipps. I'm head of audio at The Guardian. So I'll be, well, I don't know what right that gives me to be up on here, but basically it's a tenuous excuse to be up amongst this very august panel of people who are actually going to open up their hearts and brains and tell you some fantastic bits of wisdom about driving audiences to your venues, to your musicians, using technology. So Clicks and Mortar, snazzy title, using technology to drive people to live music venues. Let me just quickly introduce the panel. I will get them to actually go and give a little bit of a blurb about themselves because all of them are multi-talented, do various things, and they're much better at sort of summing their life's worth up than me, I think. So Joey Baxter is founder of Eventbox. It's a massive day for Joey today, and he'll tell you why, and it's connected with iTunes. Yeah. Oh, you did already. Okay, you can repeat it. You're allowed to crow from the houses. We also have the great Laura Kidd, who is a musician.
That's my full title. It's the great Laura Kidd.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say you should rebrand yourself. Free strap lines. But
Thank you.
She Makes War is a sort of a powerhouse of creativity. Well, you've got your own definitions. I'll let you describe it yourself. But a great sort of DIY musician at this stage will obviously go on to world domination, where she'll get everyone to do everything for her. But at the moment, she does everything for herself. And so is a font of understanding around, from a musician's perspective, how to use technology and how to drive audiences and connect with audiences and make it work financially, to make it work creatively. To this side, I have Chris Baird, who is Music Ally Supremo, technology consultant, someone who's really at the very forefront, right in the trenches, dealing with sort of technology and how to make that work for the creative sectors broadly, but it's got a great relevance for us today. And then last, but by no means least, I have Maria Horner, who is from Roundhouse, so an absolute institution here in London, but is key to Roundhouse Radio, key to that whole digital kind of representation of the great work that Roundhouse do, bringing in audiences online, not just physically. So that's a great bridge, and we'll be talking about that bridge a lot. We'll go into detail here. Well, I'll hand it over. Marie, you probably say a little bit more about what you do. Can you give the audience just some perspective of kind of your day-to-day and what your main objectives are?
Yeah, well, my job title at Roundhouse, which is a little bit long, but it might be a bit helpful, is Broadcast New Media Program Manager. So not many people know that we have this obviously amazing space at Roundhouse where some incredible artists come to perform, and underneath we have studios that are there for 11 to 25s. And that's when young musicians and emerging artists, DJs, performers come and are able to access those studios. And those gigs that happen on top directly fund what's going on underneath. So my job, wonderfully, is to explore how we can be supporting those emerging artists in growing themselves as artists, but also growing their audience. And we do that a lot through live streaming of events and involving emerging artists in that, but also exploring digital technologies. And I think I've only been at the Roundhouse in this role for the last 5 months, and something that I'm really enjoying is actually we're experimenting a bit. And we have this great opportunity to be working with this younger audience to explore what works for them in terms of digital technology. So that's basically what my day-to-day involves. I get to work with some amazing young musicians that are upcoming.
Great. We will talk a little bit further about that because you're right at the sort of cutting edge of a generation of people who sort of are by default engaged with you in the way that you have to sort of represent yourselves. But and I'm sure there's a broad spread of kind of venues and people involved in different generations, different genres. But in your case, it's very much the sort of the focus of what you're doing. Yeah. Chris, do you want to say a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I come here wearing a couple of hats.
Well, no, actually one hat.
Yeah, one hat, no pun intended. So, as Jason said, I work for Music Ally. If you've come across Music Ally before, we report on digital music business and the industry at large. We run training events or events training consultancy, but my main day-to-day is through Music Ally, contracted to work on an innovation program called I See Tomorrow as part of the government's Innovate UK, formerly the Technology Strategy Board. So my role really is to understand in the creative industries and in other sectors where digital technologies have become more prevalent, where the sector is going, what those sector challenges are, what are the weaknesses, where are the strengths and, what are the opportunities for innovators to come and, agile, lean startups to come and, solve challenges that are industry-wide with their great ideas, and the best ideas will give them funding to develop a prototype and then, quite importantly, trial it with leading industry partners. So everybody from Live Nation to Universal, Sony, and right across like the music industry, right through to publishing, games, film and TV. My specialism as a lead technologist is in the education sector. And really, any industry where digital is having like a really strong impact today.
Yeah, okay, and these are great times for this technology. We have someone who's actually in the front line doing it, but it's a great time for people both to create great technology, to use technology and adapt technology. You're somebody who kind of does everything from a musician's perspective. Tell us a bit about yourself.
So I'm a solo artist. I've got a history of playing in bands and playing session bass for bigger bands as well, and then I started making my own music around 2008. I've put 2 albums out myself so far, and I'm recording my 3rd one in December, which I'm going to produce myself, because why not? And I also make videos, music videos. I direct and edit them, and I do lots of different jobs to make money so that my music doesn't have to. So I'm always the person on the panel going, get a job, and then you can make the music you want, no problem. And I do try and harness all of these technologies. I put on online gigs, which I do every couple of months. I also do gig promotion. So for 3 years, I've been putting on my own shows in London. Then I moved to Bristol, put them on there, kept doing them in London. I'm going to have to move somewhere else soon just to keep doing this new model of it's not going to work. And just I do every aspect of my project myself, not necessarily through choice. I'm not like flying the DIY flag just to look cool or something, but because I want things to be a certain way, and maybe there'll be partnerships in the future. But mainly the internet has made it possible, and Twitter's made it possible.
It does help you crowdfund in the sense that because you do everything, you can really pull in people to support you in a way. You're very
people probably feel a bit sorry for me. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. Envious maybe. Joey, would you like to tell us about what Eventbox is about to do and change the world?
Well, I'll kind of do maybe like a 2-minute précis of the 12-minute, 15-minute talk earlier. So, I mean, we are focused on trying to get people to go to more music events, and the first thing we're doing to help make that happen is an app that lets you listen to listings to discover gigs, concerts, and club nights happening nearby. So within a kilometre of here tonight, you could listen to music from the bands and DJs that are playing to figure out what you want to go to. And on our B2B side, we offer software as a service to venues, which includes content-enhanced profiles for them, which will be optimized for web and for mobile, and a suite of other software services. I was just having a thought before the panel about a discussion I went to a couple of years ago with people talking about the future of the music industry, and I thought a guy made a really interesting point that this is sort of counter in many ways to the artist doing the DIY thing, that one of his concerns was that with so many tools to do the DIY thing, he was concerned that we were going to lose a number of artists who are just a bit lazy when it comes to digital and really don't want to engage with it, don't want to do anything with it. And on the clicks and mortar thing in terms of venues, I sort of see one of our responsibilities is helping venues who don't want to do that as well, because a lot of venues, quite frankly, it's not about being lazy. They haven't got the time, or quite often they haven't got the inclination. So the more we can help automate that, for venues and take those sort of tasks off their plate, hopefully we can help them drive up live attendance without them having to do much work.
Okay, well, I mean, in a week where Apple Pay was launched, in a week where you can see big technology companies beginning to really engage with simple systems for people to digitally pay and engage, I'll just put this question out. I mean, do you think specifically that we're going to see a big change in the next 12 months? So we talk about these things, a lot of these things are aspirational, but I think what we should do is we focus the discussion today about things happening in the next, let's say a 2-year time frame. Okay. Chris, do you think in a 2-year time frame, we're going to see a set of very user-friendly technologies that both artists and venues can use to make that a very seamless experience for someone to go from someone interested online, engaging online, to turning up at a venue and seeing an artist?
I think, on a couple of different levels, there's probably likely to be some shift. For instance, like we're all so used to doing contactless payments or using our Oyster card to pay for things now. So it's totally feasible that, you know, we'll be able to just walk up with our iWatch, if you want to call it, and just dink onto something and just pay for something as and when we need it in a venue or whatnot. I think, you know, beyond that, you know, the sorts of innovations that might start beginning to take shape might be around, you know, the evolution of data and being able to collect data and being able to implement things like iBeacons and, you know, technologies which are able to focus location a bit easier. And that sort of idea should start to be prototyped in venues and in festivals a lot more consistently than it has done already. I think, you know, the sorts of user interface challenges that the digital space has faced, i.e. making it intuitive enough to make people want to use it, are now becoming to be overcome. And I think we're in a really great position in the UK where the expertise around design of UI and UX is world class here. You know, if you go into Asia, or you even look at the innovation that's happening in the States, you still find systems that are pretty clunky. Whereas I think over here, it's very much about if people don't get it straight away and they can't get to things within 3 or 4 or 5 clicks, they don't really want to use it. So you either need to make it that stupidly simple that you can do that, or make it so they don't even need to do anything. And, you know, like with the iWatch or the Apple Watch, should I say, or your phone or your Oyster card or your Barclays card, you know, being able to take that friction away from, you know, going from one you know, transaction point into through the process very simply, you know, all that's taken care of if you can just make it a lot easier for people to deal with.
Yeah, it also potentially redefines what the venue is. Yeah. We have to actually rethink what the venue is, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. I just want to say, the panel should jump in on each other, but also, if anyone wants to launch in with a question, an insightful remark, or not even a question, you don't even have to pretend like you're having a question. You just want to make a statement, that's fine. Just stick your hand up and we'll get you involved. So we're just saying we could also redefine the venue. Can I just ask you just to explain quickly what iBeacon is?
Oh, okay, yeah. So iBeacon would be like essentially a little sensor, a little low-power Bluetooth-enabled piece of technology that will you know, be able to pick up and locate your device when you're near it. So if you think about, you know, being able to be identified very close to a particular location, like a lot closer than GPS does. GPS has a range of about 25 meters, whereas iBeacons, you'll be able to it'll be able to understand where you are within 5 meters of this point. That allows, you know, in terms of the software and the apps and the services that are created off the back of it, you know, a lot more granular information being able to be understood about who's doing what, where, when, and why.
So exciting and scary at the same time. Sorry, Laura. Yeah, do you want to jump in there?
It's almost like everyone could be you two. Just have my music. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, it's true.
From an artist's perspective, I think that all the tools are there for us to be visible all across the internet already. So I see all of these startups coming along and going, we're going to do this thing where you can crowdfund. I'm like, okay, that's available. Or you could do this thing where you can browse for stuff. Yes, that's definitely available as well. It's called the internet and Bandcamp, and there's all these brilliant things. But the good thing is that we can pick and choose the things that suit us the best. Like, my music's not on every single platform because I've chosen particular ones I want to do it on. I sell my music mainly through Bandcamp because they're a really nice company, and I don't mind paying them money, and it's quite an ethical thing. They've got a great browsing function as well now, and you can have your music in the cloud, so that's really cool. So I sell my music through there. It's also on iTunes because some people just want to use iTunes and all the other sort of platforms like that. But all the bits are there for us to use. I think the danger of trying to think about having one conglomerate thing where everyone just plugs into this one thing means you're kind of we're either wanting Apple to do it, aren't we, or wanting Microsoft or something, or Google, some existing big company. And I don't actually like that, so just because I'm a funny, annoying, irritable artist, like I'd like to choose the people who are getting bits of my money if money's coming in, and I'd like to choose the user experience. So for instance, my videos on YouTube don't have advertising on because, I mean, I suppose I just put many roadblocks in my own way to success just because that's how I am, but partly because I don't want people to feel depressed when my video starts. Because, you know, you get that sinking feeling for 3 seconds where you're waiting until you can click, and then my face comes on the screen. Yeah. That's a bad association. So so I choose not to have that as well. Yeah. But then everyone else is perfectly within their rights to monetize their YouTube channel, and I have no problem with that. So I think having one thing that fits in and it's on your watch and everyone has the same thing is quite horrible, and I wouldn't like it.
Yeah. So, Laura, can I just ask, like, maybe just for everybody else's benefit, what's the trade-off that you have to, sacrifice when you choose not to have the advertising on YouTube?
Just a few less pennies than you might have had before, I suppose. Yeah, it's just, I don't even know how much it would be. Maybe if someone showed me how much it would be, I might reconsider it.
Say,
However, I'm not asking the question.
Would you kick yourself if you got tweeted by, a major artist and you got, I don't know, a million hits overnight? Would you not kick yourself?
I see so much of this, putting your music online for free, and free is the word that is not useful for other reasons we can get to. Making your music available online is free advertising to me. So I feel that instead of paying for PR, because it's very problematic paying for PR, I'd rather put my videos up on YouTube and let people watch them and not charge them money. And then as long as I can make everything hook up together, then people know that I'm doing an online gig because they're on my Twitter feed or my Facebook, and they know that they can pay me for that gig or it can be free, because that's how I decide to do things as well. So I think culture should be available for everybody, and if you are generous and have the money there to spend on things, then you can contribute, and that's fine. So it probably is, maybe it's a few quid, I don't know. I don't want to know. I actually don't want to know, because I'm happy with that decision. I feel that it's important to you draw your own line in the sand.
Yeah,
and
I agree, and that kind of control is very important, and it becomes very problematic in online, in the digital world. It's very problematic.
Yeah.
Data is obviously a very contentious, very sort of now issue. Who controls data? What data are you being used to generate? I mean, Joey, how, for Eventbox, essentially, you're going to use data to deliver, hopefully, what you think is the perfect experience, interesting music, and then locating it close to where people can go and actually get the live experience. What sort of issues have you dealt with? I mean, what are the weights and balances when it comes to that kind of control for artists and data that you guys are dealing with at the moment?
We haven't run into much so far. Probably the greatest we have was actually with talking to venues about using iBeacons. Because, understandably, as you immediately touched on, people don't really want to just surrender their information or just to be automatically connected. And quite frankly, a number of the venues said, well, we don't want to do that to our customers either. We've got to we built a relationship of trust with them, and, we want to be very careful about how we sort of communicate with them about how we use their data. And I think as a policy from an Eventbox point of view, we want to treat it exactly the same. And it's the way I'd treat it is that, I want to be able to make a decision that, that somebody's going to have my data and to have some idea of what they're going to do with it. Unfortunately, what tends to happen is that gets hidden in the terms and conditions, and people just tick the box, and actually, you're not really sure what they're going to be doing with their data, with your data, unless you look really closely. But from a data point of view and from a slightly different angle, I'm kind of really interested to see when you're talking about where things go in the next year, 2 years, and you mentioned, the integration of data and data sources relevant to clicks and mortar in terms of how it's going to drive attendance at venues. I'm intrigued. I think from our point of view, we want to be able to let venues be able to access the local community more easily, to keep them up to date with what's going on. I wonder as well about, I don't know how well venues are able to use the reach of artists that they've got on to get to communities. If they could, ideally what you want is for a venue to be able to say, well, we've got these 4 artists, and see on one screen, well, within 5 miles, here are all their Twitter followers, here are all their Facebook fans, etc., etc. And that would be their targeted marketing for the gig at that venue. And it's not there yet, but I suspect that we'll be part of it. I suspect that it's not too far off.
A lot of venues won't even have a list of the bands who are playing on a piece of paper on the wall in the venue. Yeah. So I think we're very far from that. Yeah. That's a lovely idea, isn't it? That everything can. There's so simple. And we were talking. I think the driver of this panel is how to get people along to your gigs, right? I think there's some really simple things that you can do. So even if you're not putting on the show, you can make a little poster that has your name on and the other bands and put it on the wall. I've done that before, because otherwise no one knows what's going on.
Yeah, but then all you'd have to do is go and add it to Eventbox. We'll automate it all, and then if we're plugged into that, we'll put in all that information and send it out.
But then when the person's in the room, watching the bands, how does Eventbox help?
I think
it's a visual on the wall, so that when they leave, I have these cards.
Because I haven't got a clue
I have these cards that I take with me everywhere, and every time, because I don't like going, give me your email address on a clipboard, and in fact I don't have the time. I've got to pack up my stuff and everything. I have these cards which have a picture on, and on the back it's got my email address and whatever. Just it's obvious. It's a business card.
I think it's a
I
fair
give them
point.
out at every single show.
There's simple technologies that basically are extraordinarily effective, like your
You need to do those
emailing list.
first, and then this stuff is wonderful, but you
Yeah.
have to do the simple. Like
iBeacons can help with that as well.
Yeah. So we're talking about in a 2-year time frame. So maybe iBeacons will happen, but it's a complicated issue. Like you said, there are simple technologies, simple
Say your name
things.
on stage.
You can say your name on stage. You can also, and this is one thing
People don't do it.
I'm reflecting this from a very big organization, which is The Guardian, which is, we've found that actually our email lists have become incredibly important. People actually sometimes do want an email. They just want an email with some sort of a summary of what's going on.
Facebook is the most frightening thing for artists, I think. Facebook is, to me, the most frightening thing about the internet in so many ways, one of which is that bands think they don't need a website anymore and they don't need emailing lists. You absolutely do. We don't have any idea how long that thing's going to last. MySpace, does everyone remember that? That's gone, isn't it? Imagine if all of your data and all of your information and all of your contacts on MySpace or Facebook go tomorrow. Where are you going to start that from again? You have to be in control of that stuff.
That's a really good point. Should we take some questions from the floor? We're going to take this gentleman here at the back. I'll come to you over, the lady over in the blue t-shirt soon, yeah?
Hello, my name's Alistair Wilkinson. I'd just like to ask Joey, where do the revenue streams for Eventbox to continue on going to come from? The artists, the app users, the venues, none of the above, or all of the above?
Well, we'll take some affiliate fees from ticket sales, but you know, quite frankly, over time, we're not concentrating on that as a revenue stream. We're willing to trade with that, and we're actually doing quite well using it to trade effectively. And we can also see down the line that it may disappear to a significant degree, and we're okay with that. We want to build our revenues from the software services we provide to venues. And I don't know if anyone went to Nick's talk, Nicholas Lovell, about the curve. Essentially creating super fans, finding out who are the people who use you the most, and then building and then creating much more revenue from them because they're willing to spend. So we will have a suite of services which will be quite low cost for venues, and then we'll build more and more services for the venues which will stack up the costs more and more and more and more, and over time, a lot of our chat with the venues, as much as the solutions we've got on the plate at the moment, is what piece of software makes you want to punch your computer, and we'll try and do something about that. What's the most tedious thing that you have to do that you think could be automated, and we'll do something about that. And when I say venues as well, there's very little step for us to move from venues to be able to provide the same software to promoters. And long term, I think it'll be the data that we've got. Quite frankly, brands are an obvious one from a point of view of a brand being able to say, well, if you're a brand that sells to a hip hop audience, then where are the hot spots in Leeds, in Manchester, in any city in the UK for where people go to hip hop stuff. So there's an enormous amount of data we should be able to provide on that front, and also from something we haven't figured out yet.
Sorry.
So I'm Catherine. I'm in a band called Paretti Cat. And we've tried lots of different marketing strategies to get people to gigs, some online and some physical. And we've discovered that the most important way of getting people to gigs is them telling their friends. You can see 1,000 Facebook adverts, but if your friend says it's good, you'll go. So I'm interested to hear the panel's response to how can we use technology to get people to share things with their friends. Because bar kind of posting the event on your friend's page, or maybe going to the extent of inviting your friend through Facebook, an ad, like an event, if they allow you to be an admin. It's not an easy thing to do to say to your friend, I'm going to this, it's good, let's go.
Yeah, that's a really good question. We'll come to that. We'll take one more question and then we'll try and answer that. Who wants to ask a question? This lady in the blue t-shirt, I think.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Larson. I'm one of the academics on the Joining the Dots program, and my area is in arts and music consumption, so I suppose that underpins the question that I'm posing to you. There's a lot of discussion around the technologists and the artists and what they do with technology, and I'm quite interested to know whether anybody's really done work on what audiences actually want to do with the technology and how they want to use technology. So sort of coming at it from the direction of being driven by audiences in the way that they wish to engage with music.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Maybe Chris has got something to say on that. We just go back to that idea of like sharing. I think simple things like word of mouth and sharing. And I think you're right, there's loads of simple technologies that you can use. And in fact, sometimes people overcomplicate the issue in a way. In fact, you should go back to brass tacks. And also, to be honest with you, the noise on the internet, and you guys can all jump in here, you can't be you have to be cleverer than you'll ever have to be to make things shareable. And I wonder, and this is a question I have, which is the music video, and you make very beautiful music videos, is the music video dead in some ways? And it's far too much attention, it's far too much commitment. And if it's used as a means to advertise and sort of bring people in and drive people to venues and live performances, how do you do that? How do you make that shareable thing work for you? How have you found that making things shared? What's the most shared thing?
I don't make a music video to advertise anything. I make a music video
as
to
a creative
create a piece
thing.
of artistic work that goes with the song, and I'm a massive hippie, clearly. But then I switch into marketing side of my brain, where I'm not stupid and a hippie, and I go, cool, so every time you put something on the internet that's new, that's to do with your band, that's an in point for a new person, because it's a new shareable thing. So the root of it is make sure it's not shit, and make sure you'll stand by it in 10, 15 years' time, because it will be there forever. That's step one. Step two is then going, right, let's make it shareable, and succinctly share it. One of the things that peeves me about Twitter is when someone's got a new video out and they sort of do a really crappy tweet about it that's just, you can't retweet it properly because the link's wrong or they don't say what it is or something. Just practice writing tweets where you go, there's something interesting about the video, the link's at the end, and it's so retweetable. That's a really simple thing to do.
Okay.
In the same way that if you want to get people to come to your shows, or if you want people to share your, the things that are coming up, if you're doing an email out, just put at the top, support independent music, forward to a friend. That's what I put on mine. Like, simple things. Encourage people, because I think people just assume that you've got loads of fans or loads of money or something. They just think if a musician's on stage, they're getting paid extremely well, and normally they're not. So if you could just say, guys, I need a bit of help. Like I sent one this morning. I'm playing in Coventry next Saturday. I've played in Coventry once. I'm putting on the gig. I don't know why I've done it, because I don't have an audience in Coventry. So I sent this email out this morning saying, I need a bit of help, guys. Please, can you tell anyone you know in Coventry or the Midlands to forward this around? So just saying, I need a bit of help. That's simple as well, isn't it? Just don't play the whole mystique card too much, because people would go, oh, well, they're fine. We don't need to share this. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's a good point. I think it's interesting that as a friend, you are more likely to obviously be invested in that artist. And I think that's to do with story. And something that we look at the Roundhouse, and certainly with the emerging artists that we work with, is how do you share that story safely as an artist to build an audience so that they invest in you as a musician, as much as for what you're producing, but also for you as an individual. And how you do that safely when you've got all of these different options of platforms of sharing is a really interesting conversation, and one that we have really frequently, and I think should be happening much, much more.
Also, maybe add to that, you need to have a diversity of platforms. You need to not put your eggs in one digital basket. I think you need to have a bit more of a sort of smorgasbord of communication systems and technologies, and use them. Because we'll come back to that question, which is about research. About we're talking about artists driving this along and venues driving this along. What about consumers, people who they obviously want technologies. They want to make it. They want to make this a much more frictionless.
So, I mean, there's a couple of things. I want to touch on the point that the lady over there was just making just a second ago. So one of the ways where you can get your friends involved, you could use social ticketing platforms that essentially allow you to deputise your friends as ticket sellers, and then they can get some sort of perhaps revenue or discounts or whatnot as part of your live tour campaigns. So that could be an opportunity for you to sort of incentivise people that you know to act as as an advocate for you. Another one, which I thought was really interesting, you might have heard Jeff Thompson speak earlier on from the Unconvention. So the Unconvention were a project that I See Tomorrow, the programme that I come from, we funded them to develop their digital prototype. And essentially what they do is the platform, it allows you to connect with, say, other bands in another place. So say like Coventry, you don't have an audience in Coventry, but yet you've got a band up there that's kind of like you. You can connect with them and then tap into their network. So you use each other's networks as advocates for your own gigs and helping you to develop your audience bases. Beyond that, I think Twitter's amazing. If you want to look at how can you engage international fans, if you spent an hour a week targeting a particular international region and tailoring content directly for them. Like, you know, I used to live in Japan. I used to work for a couple of startups out there. You know, the guys out there that are in Japanese, the Japanese bands, if they can, you know, tailor their content for English fans. Hey, England, love England. Have we got any fans in England? Love you. Hopefully, they're going to get some sort of response back. If you do the same thing, then you're likely to get some sort of engagement. You go and tour that place, or you go and do a gig in an international country. 50 people come up, you show them a really good time. Hopefully they're going to go and spread that message to their friends. So in 2-3 years' time, you can go back there and then have, you know, more of an opportunity to reach more people because you've already established a base there. On the question that you're asking about, you know, what sort of research and what sort of audience needs are being met through sort of innovation, you know, I think it always comes down to like what sort of meaningful value is the technology adding to the experience that the audience is experiencing or is, you know, interacting with. So, you know, in the case of the I See Tomorrow program, we ran a competition in partnership with Live Nation. And, you know, one side of the coin was Live Nation want to know more about their audience in a festival environment, right? So, you know, there was 100 iBeacons that were put around the Wireless Festival, a prototype by a company called Crowd Connected was developed, and it was integrated with the wireless app. There was something like, you know, 25,000 downloads of the official wireless app over the weekend, of which, you know, at any one time there's something like 10,000 devices connected. So as you got close to an iBeacon, it would pick it up and create this whole sort of data visualization set for use, you know, for Live Nation. Well, that's only one side of the coin, right? That's really serving the needs of them. So, you know, the aim of the app really was, it's going to generate all this cool data, but what more can we add to the experience beyond just sort of signposting people towards the headline acts and very cool things? So what they ended up doing, as far as I understand, was dealing with some of the vendors, dealing with some of the sponsors, dealing with the partners, and trying to bake in sort of near-on digital experiential stuff that, you know, would be able to signpost the festival goer towards really cool stuff, as well as being able to support, you know, the other sort of intention, which was to kind of generate all this interesting audience insights. So, you know, to sum it up, basically, it's all about being able to create more meaningful value. If you can't do that, no one's going to want to use it, and, you know, no one's going to engage with your platform.
Also, I was going to mention, and just wanted to mention if Dukely, I don't know if anybody's aware of Dukely, it's over in the US at the moment, and they've got a really nice way that they use technology to help create that conversation with your friends about going to a gig. Because what they'll do is they'll show you your friends on Facebook that like a similar event. If you showed any interest in a gig or you like it, you're thinking about buying tickets, it'll show you which friends are interested. And one of the things I really liked about it was, you know, I think as with most people on Facebook, you know, you've got your core group of friends and then there's sort of this wider network of people you've known over the years. And what I liked on Dukely was it would show up sort of 3 or 4 people. I'm not in New York, so I go because I'm playing with the app, but I can't because I can't go. But it'll show up 3 or 4 people that I might not have seen for a while, but I know they all like this band, so it gave me immediate impetus to get back in touch with those people, and I got 4 people to start a conversation with about going. And the thing they really were trying to tackle was that bit about where you get the conversation going. The first thing you do after you found a gig you want to go to is you find people to go with, and they get that bit going really quickly. So I'm sure they'll be over here before too long. Hopefully we'll have incorporated into Eventbox before then. But
it's kind of about authenticity, though, isn't it? Like you're not just trying to engage with people just to get them to come and buy your gig ticket. It's about being able to, you know, spark that interest and inspire them to want to come along and see you.
The thing is, the audience are as much a part of the gig as the musicians are. So, I mean, if 2 people come to your gig, you still have to put on a great gig because they're the ones that should get the reward for coming, right? It's not their fault that no one else came. But I think for me, when I had to think quite long and hard about why am I going out and gigging? So you don't have to. I could just do gigs in my bedroom and stream them, and I could just make albums and sell them, and that would be okay. And most of my fans will never see me play because they live in all these different countries. So I had to really think about it, and then I realized it's because I want to have meaningful experiences in a room with other people. I want to feel things, and I want them to feel things. I don't want them to adore me or have adulation or anything. I just want to have conversations. And that's why, for instance, simple things you can do. If you're on Twitter and you're saying, come to my gig, and someone goes, cool, reply to them. Like, talk to them back. Because it's not just you go and do things for me, cheers, guys. I'm a superstar, you know, that's not really how this is working. So you have to have those conversations. And then when you're in the room with them, go and talk to them as well. Like, don't just go on stage and then leave. Like, I just don't understand. Some bands can't even speak to the other bands on the bill, let alone the audience, you know.
I don't mind
bizarre.
that quite often as well. I quite often, I like having familiarity with certain artists. I also like the distance between myself and an artist quite often.
But that's okay, you don't have to go and talk to them.
No, I mean, I wouldn't normally quote Noel Gallagher because I'm not the biggest fan, but he was talking about this, and he said, and they was talking, someone was asking me about talking more to his fans. He said, "Oh, fuck that! I don't want to do that." That's my worst accent. And he said, when I went to see David Bowie when I was young, I fucking thought he was from fucking Mars. And, you know, and there's that kind of distance that actually leaves them as something which is almost kind of, I don't know, otherworldly. And so I think there are occasions where it's nice not to have that communication.
This is a bigger conversation. Like,
Yeah.
I see your point. However,
I'm going to close it down because it is such a big conversation now. We're going to move on. Was there a question right at the back there? This lady in the...
Right. It's just actually I'm kind of like going back a bit, but so what's the singer lady?
Laura.
Called?
The great.
What's your name?
Laura. Hello.
Oh, Laura. Yeah, it's just that we're all kind of going on about music videos and stuff like that, and I was just wondering, is that a bit of a singer exclusive thing? Because what do you do if you're not a singer? You know, what do you do if you're like a instrumentalist? You know, is it as important to have a music video?
Do you mean if it's an instrumental band? Like it's just,
Yeah.
there's no vocals? Absolutely. I think if you want to make a video, you're making a video because it's a piece of artwork, that's a visual piece of artwork. That's why I make music videos.
But
It's not
is
just
it
to
as
look pretty and
important,
walk
do you
around.
think?
It's like, pardon?
I mean, do you think it's as important? Because
As what?
I think like the kind of quirky kind of video thing as a singer has its place, but I think if you play an instrument, then
Yeah. Can I just, I think what you're asking is that, you know, it's not just about advertising. It sometimes is about literally a kind of online digital legacy to represent a period of time, a period of music. I think it's probably quite important for that, is it not?
I know I'm doing rambling answers.
Yeah,
I'll succinctly say, if you're thinking about it from a marketing perspective and you're thinking about all the different platforms there are, then it's worth having something in each platform and in each format. So having a video, because there's a video channel called YouTube that we all know and love, having pictures on Instagram, having text in tweets, having a variety of those things on Facebook. That's all really important to have like quite a rounded social media profile and to have these conversations with your community and build up community. But on YouTube you can just put a photo and have music. So I learned from Chris TT's here somewhere. He did a panel like this and he was telling everyone that they should put every single song that's released should be on YouTube, whether it's got a photo on it or what. You know, it should all be on there because that's how the youth are finding all the music now, and that's how they're sharing it with their friends. And it did not occur to me before that. I had like 8 music videos up, but I didn't have all the other songs. So I just did a really easy photo gallery thing, put them all up, and then it's just extra people finding stuff. So it doesn't have to be that you go and make a music video. But if you want to make a piece of visual art, do it, and you can do it with your phone. So there's no excuse if you
And
don't
there's
if you
also a
want to.
danger of overzealous fans badly representing you through...
That is a real problem.
That is a problem on YouTube, that people, very fine musicians are
really
sort of
bad.
like distorted and mangled into something that it shouldn't be, you know, and it was meant completely well. I mean, so it is about kind of being a broadcaster. Fans should enter into that mentality that they don't have to wait around for radio stations, or they can go out and use those technologies to do it themselves.
Which is great, and there's so many. Someone's doing that, do you know? Okay.
Yeah, we're going to round up in a minute.
There are so many different platforms, and Roundhouse Radio, I think what's really interesting in radio is that radio is now a visual medium. And what that means for us, I think, is really challenging. And I think that radio feels a little bit behind, actually, from the music industry that's realised that for years through music videos. So in terms of radio, what do we then do, and how do we then reply to that, I think is really interesting.